what I've been thinking a lot about is just the idea of talking about um, where my mind wanders and drifts while I'm working. How I'm correcting, how I'm making decisions and stuff. Mid process to communicate to other people, what they could be doing, or at least how my brain's working while I'm drawing. Uh, Not the kind of drawing where it's just for funsies, but like, you know, high level skillful drawing of things that might be hard to do. Um, so things like, how to, where the eye is lining up, and this little line I draw here before I draw the chin, and how I do a straight line at the bottom here. And I line up all the features from the chin up. I used to not do that. This is actually pretty recent. Um, and then what I do is I make sure the two chin lines converge. So the sides of the heads converge towards that line. That helps really straighten out the actual head, whereas before, this line would come in at a weird angle. Then from then on, and then another thing I try to do for anime style is always make sure that the turn of the chin is happening before the lips. It's not an anatomical law, it's more like a style law. And then, yeah, I just wanted to communicate like these little tiny things I'm doing. Often what I do is I try to make sure that the corner of the mouth doesn't go further past than the eye. Not for any realistic reason. It's just helps keep things kind of uh, have a certain look. So it's another stylistic rule. Whenever I'm having a hard time drawing the eye, if I don't feel like I'm putting the eye in the right spot, what I end up doing is I blot it out like this. And I just try to get it approximately in the right area. And hopefully that'll, same thing with the nose. I've been thinking about this a lot, where it's just like, if things aren't working, just blot it out and just get it approximately the right area and get it on a second pass. And then I try to make sure that the neckline goes to the center mass of the skull. So forth. Anyway, that's just some ideas I was thinking out for this page. I have quite a lot of pages I was drawing in. I don't know if you guys want to be involved in that process. Right now, I'm gonna talk aloud. One second. I need to drink something soon. I just took my medicine and now I can't. I can feel it in my throat. Anyway. So the long confidence stroke is is not a good pencil for writing with. I think I like writing with these acrylic pens. Not this one though. This one is always dying. So the idea with this is I wanted to discuss, these are all basically points and things I wanted to discuss. And the long confidence stroke was my annoyance with the idea of people constantly arguing or do long confidence strokes. And I've come to feel that this is wrong and actually kind of harmful advice. That's like saying swing like Tiger Woods and you'll be just as good as him. It's not how it works. You can't fake confidence by mimicry. The confidence stroke comes from the thousands of hours of drawing, not the other way around. You don't get good at drawing just because you've been you pose as what a good artist looks like. I also believe that when you do long confidence strokes, that's the sort of thing that changes the kind of style you might have. And I think it's very negligent of people to say, hey, limit yourself to only one real kind of look to your art. There's a bunch of art out there that I like that involves building the eyes in little tiny strokes, little hairy, little tiny strokes. That confidence strokes from something like animation industry won't allow for. And I think it's harmful advice to say it without contextualizing why you'd want to do long confidence strokes and exactly how you get there. And you get there, quite honestly, through hours and hours and hours of drawing. And you can say, oh, move your hand, move your arm, move your elbow, and then you'll get it. And it's not, that's a mechanical component that sort of plays into it. But frankly, this last year, my line art's gotten much better. And it's because I've allowed myself to do little hairy lines like this, to do little tiny strokes, to not go, oh, I'm going to, do the big confident and animation cleanup drawing stroke. I actually think the path to proficiency starts with these little tiny little strokes, and you build up from there. Quite often when I'm inking backgrounds or doing longer lines, and just even recently in general, whenever I have a line I'm not confident I can do, or I feel, I'm not 100% on, what I'll just do is I'll start making the line. And then when I feel things get wobbly, I'll just stop. And then I'll start again, and then I'll stop. So I'm actually just monitoring how confident I feel about that line. And when things start getting shaky, if I'm drawing like a long line across a thing and I feel like I'm on track and I'm I stop and I start again. And I find this to be way, way, way more effective than first the Control Z over and over, or just drawing a long, confident, wrong stroke. Also, I think over time, as people get tired of AI, people will start gravitating towards messier work as a marker of humanity. Not that AI can't fake that too, but it doesn't do it as well. It's one of the harder things because it requires such a minute processing that it'll be a very long time before you can get it to do a full ink hatching and not be able to immediately see that it's there. So for authenticity purposes, if you care about that sort of thing, I think it's important. I mean, the same thing I do with circles. Like, I don't do a big long circle. What I do now is I just start, and when things get I stop, I slow down, and then and I think it's fine. I actually really recommend that you do draw slower. I think I've gotten a lot of benefit and improved quite a lot in my pen control from just showing some level of patience. With myself and with my stroke. Not that this is a particularly good drawing you're seeing here. I'm just kind of using it to doodle and think at the same time. But I think it's totally fine to do little tiny strokes, and I actually think it's fine to do it your whole life. I don't think there's ever a time you should want to learn to do it unless it applies to something you're attempting to do, or you're working in cleanup, working in the animation industry and you're a cleanup artist, or whatever the deal is. So I think it's important that you I think that when you hear that sort of advice, I actually think you should step aside and think about that. No, I know this sounds mean. I think whenever you hear advice and you hear like YouTube tutorials and someone just tells you something and you can tell, I'll give you like a dumb thing I go to. If you're playing a video game, maybe I'm a little different than anyone else. If you're playing a video game and the game is in a serious setting and you're in a dungeon and then you open up the treasure chest, and inside the treasure chest is a sword, okay? And the sword is not rusted. I don't know if you know this about iron, but it like rusts instantly. So if you're in a dank cave, you open up a chest and inside is a non-rusty sword. Well, my first thought would be my first thought would be that someone put it there recently or someone's living here, okay? Now I understand how tropes work. I'm not a moron, but I think it's important that if you're going to take advice and you're going to listen to someone talk to you on YouTube or on TikTok about how to draw, that they've shown that they're willing to investigate tropes and investigate general advice for themselves and give a broader idea of what they think about it than just rehash and repeat it. And I think you should seek out those types of people. Now, fortunately for me, I am one of those people, so I look good in this scenario. But there are other artists out there who kind of come from that position, and I think you should seek those people out more often than the people who are just like going to tell you that industry information or just going to give you rubber stamp information. Because you can just get that on TikTok. You can do that in shorts. You don't need to get that from a person. You just have someone who goes around stealing Pinterest tutorials and repeats it on TikTok. You don't need a person for that kind of information. So I think when it comes down to, and why I've been thinking about this is because I've been talking to quite a few artists about it. And I think, it's just not it's a hot take. It's a counter argument against the strokes, because it's not that you can't get it ultimately you can't get there. And it's not that you can't train that. But I think drawing a big, long, confident stroke is something that really needs to come down in your intermediate to intermediate advanced phase. It is not something you should be doing right at the start. There's actually a few artists I see who are amateur or beginners, and they're moving really fast, but they're still doing tiny strokes. So they're going like, and it's because they've been instructed that quick, like long strokes are good, but they don't know how to make those yet. So they're just drawing very quickly with no like thought. They're doing a lot of quick strokes and building things, but then so each stroke might, you know what I mean? Like it becomes muddled information. But if I could give you advice as a beginner to intermediate to even advanced, it's not about confident strokes. It's about measured choices, measured building line patience. Well, for me specifically, I'm building patience with my lines. How's the quality on the video, by the way? I didn't really like it last time. I do have like a better camera I can play up in sync. Let me know if it's as good if it's good enough for YouTube. Tic tac, tic tac. So I think long confident strokes should come after short measured strokes. Short reflective strokes. Short measured strokes. Just learning to draw slowly and with accuracy. You know, if I have 2 points, it's not about going, it's about going like this. I think this is a much better thing to teach anyone, to learn to hit your target over time. Learning, you can get to the fast one after, listen, that can happen later down the line. But being able to guide your pencil slowly toward the spot you need it is really a high levels, a long-term skill you're going to enjoy having forever, because this, you know, once again, transfers. You can draw the dots in the right spots. You can then draw a cube. You can do all sorts of things. But, and for me, this applies to me specifically because I tended to kind of adopt this. So it's like, oh, I gotta, you know, I gotta do this. I gotta do this and this and this. And then I just have pages of like confident, quote unquote, confident strokes. But they weren't. It just looked messy. It looked like shit. I think as a person who I know people feel I have quite good line work, both on backgrounds and characters. I don't particularly feel like it's good advice. So if you're going to take it from someone who can actually do, not just teach, right? We've heard that saying, those who can't do teach. Well, listen, I can do and I'm teaching. I would say building line confidence through short, stuttered, measured strokes absolutely trumps long confident strokes. Sorry, I got a pill stuck in my throat. Let me get some water. Yeah, I noticed all the issues with the video last time. I also have like an HD cam. I'm just gonna line it up now, make sure that I can see both at the same time and give myself the best case scenario here. Give me 1 second to set it up. It won't take too long. Oops. Recording. Yeah, it says it is. Okay, anyway, sorry. Sorry to sidetrack. So anyway, so that's that. That's what that was about. Don't know if that's helpful. I don't know how to really communicate that. I mean, I might just post this whole video just raw as is and let God sort it out. But I definitely feel like I'm repeating myself at this point. But if I could give some advice, you could put this little exercise aside for another day and learn to do this instead. And that goes with circles too. This is not of value. And I'm going to tell you why it's not of value. Doing this over and over, because you're not training shit. It's just you're not doing anything. You're going to slowly kind of get better at it. But I'm going to tell you, if you can actually have like a circle. So first of all, if you're going to do circles, you should have a guide of a circle underneath, and you should be following that circle, because drawing a circle without a circle guide doesn't mean anything. You can kind of get it close, but, or at least have a box underneath, a proper box, a sheet of boxes underneath, and then draw within the boxes, especially if they're broken down like this. To draw, you'd really want to do is you'd want to go, stop, find where, you know, and then try to do it. See, I could tell I was right there. You really want measured, slow first, then fast. You don't learn to drive a car by driving it fast, a race car by driving it fast first. You got to build up to that speed. And if you have a bunch of just bad habits from the get-go and you're doing it fast, those habits are just going to get more and more out of control. They're just gonna, oh boy, so close. See, I should have just, with this, I should have been slower, because I could have nailed it. I was feeling it. You really need to just get your confidence in there, and you need to build it slowly. There's no reason to do this sort of stuff fast. Plus, I think it's important that as you're drawing, you take time to think and reflect. That's another thing I used to not do. I think that's just having a neurodivergent mind where, you know, with ADHD, I'm just trying to cover all these subjects. I'm trying to do so many things all at the same time that it, you know, that it becomes difficult to it's easy to just fall into the trap of wanting to speed through things real quick, thinking that, you know, more fast drawing means more of the doing. I've spent more and more time now reflecting on my drawings before I draw them. I didn't write it in my thing. I should write it here. I'll just write red dot. It's something I've been doing recently where I put a little red dot on the page and I draw the line before I draw it. So it's kind of like kind of like how athletes visualize themselves performing something, and then they just follow through on that visualization. So if I'm trying to go from one point to another, there's a little like red dot. It's not really red, but I just say you feel like it's red, and I just kind of like pre-draw the line. So I'm picturing a line that's already being traced, and I'm catching up to that pre-traced line. And I think it tends to give me a better results and control. I don't know what the logic is. I don't know if I'm actually doing anything or it's all in my head. But I think it really helps to not focus on where your line is, but where your line is going. And that's the majority of what good line art is. It's not being in the moment of the current position, but it's where you're eventually going to be. God, I'm so dry lately. My skin's so dry since it's in the winter time. So yeah, that's one thing. I have quite a few. I guess this is not going to be able to be covered all in one go, but we can still chat about it. I wish I could draw this thing a little better. He got all my little cat guy got all hacked up by bad line work, by weird doodles. But actually, this is a good seg for the rules. Rules. I don't know why I wrote rules selected. Rules 3. They fool me. Rules selected. Why did I write? I know why I wrote it, but I think I was just running out of words. Rules. It should just be rules create consistency. And this consistency with an A or an E. Oh well. And anyway. Let's see what chat says. I gotta monitor both my chats. Let me double check to make sure the audio is working too. 1 second. I got all these devices that need to all be working in tandem for this to work. Looks good. Looks good. Okay. Rules create consistency, and this is in regards to inking. I wasn't even writing that correctly. I mean, it could be to a lot of things. I think a lot of the time people, one of the things I have a hard time with what I've helped improve with my inking and what I used to have a hard time is that when I'm drawing something and I'm trying to like make it nice, is I'm trying to integrate too many things I like about, other things I've seen. And then it ends up not looking great. Specifically, when it comes to hatching and things. So what I've started doing recently is I think a lot of people don't understand that what makes something appealing for a lot of people isn't how they've implemented, how they've achieved the best integration of art concepts into their drawing. It's just that they're consistent. So they can have bad skills but be consistent, and that consistency of implementation will carry through the whole drawing. So there's ways to do that are very kind of surface level and still kind of work. So if you're not very good at hatching, but you want to do hatching, one of the things you can do is just make sure you only do 3 hatches at a time. And even if and this isn't to make you good at hatching. The thing is that doing 3 hatches at a time is going to create subconscious little groupings. You can kind of see them. And across the whole image, as you do this, that consistency is good, and you don't even have to try to separate them. It's just going to happen on its own. People are attracted to consistency, okay? And when it's seen across a whole image, that's what's going to bring an image together. And I just said three hatchings at a time for it was just popped in my head. There's no rule or law, all right? But as a whole, the gestalt, as you're finished, it will create a very consistent look, even though it might not be, you know, amazing hatching, because you've created a very simple rule for yourself and applied it equally across the whole image. It'll create a consistency of across the whole image, that it doesn't really matter how well you drew it. People will pick up on that consistency. So it shouldn't be rules create. Rules can create aesthetic. And the rules are just when you can pick. It doesn't really matter how you go about this, guys. You know, you could be like, I could make a little dot here and say just like all my hatch marks are just going to originate kind of from that direction. You know, my shadow hatch marks. So as you hatch across, it'll create, there's no logic to this. Light doesn't really bounce like this. And I'm not following it too strictly. But aesthetic art is really about picking small little choices, okay, and then sticking to them for the duration of that image. If I start applying this effect to this, it'll look weird. It won't work, right? So it's like if I try to, so when you're all excited about art, you're like, I'm going to do hatch lines, and then hatch lines don't follow any kind of internal logic, don't have any kind of rules. So for instance, I'm drawing 3 lines, and the goal is to just kind of follow the surface of the cat, right? Not perfectly, but you know. It's going to start making him look like a thatched cat. And once you're done doing that and it looks consistent, then you can do, you know, additional levels of, you know, if you want to be like, I want there to be like a second level of hatching to give like more of Terminator shadow effect. Well, then just follow the same rules, do 3 lines at a time, and then apply that across that as well. I think it comes a lot down to that. And then it really helps minimize, you know, trying to do everything, trying to learn everything. And it starts teaching you this idea, especially with like, if you're trying to restrict yourself to certain styles, or you're trying to give a very specific look, it's really important that you learn how to build and implement those styles if you're interested in that sort of thing. I wrote here integrity of systems, and I think I was thinking about, oops, I need a better marker for bigger text. 1 second, I got one here somewhere. Where is that? I feel like this one, but it's light. Too light for this paper. The paper doesn't handle watery. I have a big black pen with a fat tip someplace. Say medium. This is, oh, this is just a brush tip. I don't need that shit. Give me my fat ballpoint. Oh, all right. Don't mean to side rail what we're doing here, but oh, this works. I'm gonna run out of space again because I'm a moron. Integrity of systems is essentially just reinvestigating your methods, how you're drawing things, how things show up on the page.